Hello, we're back with another book video. I got so many nice comments and messages from my last video, so I decided that we're back and we're gonna do another one. I have my coffee, iced this time, crazy. And today I'm gonna be talking about some of my favorite non-fiction books. Now, I didn't really get into non-fiction till after high school, I would say. I was always a fiction gal, not sure why. And now I find that I kind of oscillate between desperately wanting fiction and wanting to read stories and, you know, dive into a fictional world with all these characters, and then really wanting to read non-fiction and read about people that existed or, you know, different social and cultural topics. When I was looking at my shelf, I had to make some tough calls about which books to talk about and which books to not. But these ones are kind of the ones that stood out to me the most as having a really great impact when I read them. So they cover a wide range of different topics. Without further ado, let's get into it. The first book is a memoir. I think I read this in 2022 during my memoir phase. It's Homework. It's called Homework. It's Julie Andrews' memoir. Now, I absolutely love Julie Andrews, obviously. So reading this was such a joy and a delight. Also, as an actor, I love reading about other actors' processes and the ways that they got their start in the industry. I just find it really interesting. And also the fun behind the scenes facts. So my favorite one was in The Sound of Music when they were shooting Do Re Mi. They were on this hillside and the weather was so bad but temperamental. Like, it would be really sunny and then it would randomly get really cloudy and rainy. So they were all on this hill under this tent and everything, and they had to like run out and quickly shoot whatever they could before the weather went bad again, and then run back out like in under the shelter, which I thought was just so funny. And now when I watch it, I'm like, oh, because they're trying to look so peaceful and calm, and like the kids are tossing that bloody ball about. So it's like, it's just so fun to know these behind the scenes facts. So this is her second memoir. It's like a sequel. The first one is just called Home, and I haven't read that one yet, but this one is more about her like later in life and her career, whereas that one's more about her growing up. My favorite parts were obviously about The Sound of Music and about Mary Poppins, and I love all the pictures. Like, look at this. This is her and Dick Van Dyke rehearsing for Mary Poppins. Like, are you kidding me? Rehearsing for the Jolly Holiday sequence in Mary Poppins. If you love Julie Andrews, why wouldn't you? But I would definitely recommend reading these, and I really want to read the first one as well. Just what a wonderful woman. I love her. That's my first one. Next, we have a thick book. My dear friend gave this to me, and it is a fat one. The 7 Basic Plots Why We Tell Stories by Christopher Booker. Now, don't let the size intimidate you. I wouldn't necessarily say it's easy to get through. Like, I wouldn't tackle this if you weren't already interested in the topic, or you know, if you were just a beginner reader, but I flew through this one. I think we were in lockdown because I just enjoyed it so much. In fact, when I was writing my notes about this for this video, I was like, I think I'm gonna give this a reread. Like, I think I need to read it again. I absolutely love things like this. So it's about the different types of stories that we tell and how we have been telling stories for the entire history of humanity. If I just go to the contents here, part 1 is the 7 gateways to the underworld. So that's where they talk about like overcoming the monster, rags to riches, the quest, etc. Different types of comedies and tragedies. So it's like different types of stories that we all know and love, and where they come from. Part 2 is the complete happy ending. You know, the perfect balance, the unrealized value, the archetypal family drama, the fatal flaw. Part 3 is missing the mark. So there are all these chapters about the ego takes over, which I think is really interesting. Losing the plot, going nowhere, rebellion against the one, and it's mentioned 1984 here. And then part 4 is called Why We Tell Stories, so that's the subheading. I love talking about this. I love talking about stories, why they're important, why it's so important that humans keep sharing their stories in any form. So yeah, this is just like a dream book for me. And honestly, like, even now sitting here just flicking through it, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna reread it. I'm gonna reread it, probably this year. Why lie? Why lie? The 7 Basic Plots by Christopher Booker. definitely would recommend. I need a coffee break. Okay, so next is 2 books that I've kind of combined into one, and I'm excited to tell you why. So the first one is Shakespeare, The Man Who Pays the Rent by Judi Dench. So yeah, it's a series of interviews with her about different Shakespeare plays. And then we also have Will in the World, How Shakespeare Became Shakespeare by Stephen Greenblatt. Now, I love Shakespeare. And in 2024, I went through this Shakespeare phase with like so many things that I read. So I read this one first, then I have another Judi Dench memoir up there where obviously she talks about Dame Judi Dench. Oh my god. Well, obviously she talks a lot about Shakespeare because she's worked so prominently in a lot of his plays. That was also the year that I read Hamnet, which I saw the film yesterday. We don't have to talk about that, but I just read so much about Shakespeare in that one year, and these 2 are phenomenal if you're interested in Shakespeare. So let me just consult my notes so I don't rant for ages. With both of these, it was kind of delving into his personal life and how he became the playwright and the writer and the poet that he is. You know, this book was like delving a lot into his personal life and how that may have informed his plays and his writing, and also his relationships with the people in his life. There's all this speculation about whether or not his relationship with his wife, Anne Hathaway, was a good relationship, because, you know, his sonnets, there's a lot about like his mistress, and there's a lot about this other man, this young man. I believe he was commissioned to write sonnets for a young like nobleman. Side note, I've been reading his sonnets. I have a book down there that's like his sonnets, and then on the page opposite it's a translation of the sonnet, which is incredible. The first couple are very much like have children, like it's very have children propaganda. But yeah, there's all this speculation about whether, because I don't believe there are any sonnets that are about his wife. And in his plays, a lot of the comedies and like the romance and everything, it's about getting to the wedding, like, you know, it's the wooing and the courting. And then the plays that either start with the wedding or portray married life post-wedding are all really horrendous portrayals of marriage, you know, like in Macbeth or Othello or Winter's Tale. Like all of these plays, the relationships between the husband and wife are so horrendous. So everyone's kind of like, oh, what happened there? And then in his will, he left Anne Hathaway his second best bed. So everyone's kind of like, there's also a thought that might have actually been a very touching gesture, because the first best bed, the best bed, would have been reserved for guests, and the second best bed was probably their marital bed. So it actually might have been really lovely. It's just so nice to read a book like this, and Stephen Greenblatt's like looking at all of the evidence and the records that they have and trying to like decipher things and like draw conclusions from it. It's just fascinating. I absolutely love it. And then Judi Dench talks more about, you know, playing the characters and dissecting the text more from that perspective as an actor reading it. So his female characters often do leave a little to be desired by today's standards, especially with how much they feature in the play and how much of a perspective they're allowed to share. However, he was writing female characters that were really messy. What did I write down? But he was writing female characters that were messy, conflicted, disobedient, ambitious, kind, cruel, encompassed all of these things, which do make them really rich characters, I find. I love them. I love Shakespeare. The thing that I just find so fascinating and so wonderful is that it's crazy that these characters and these storylines and these plays that he's written have stood the test of time so well, and obviously just touch on such universal themes of humanity and things that we all still just deeply and intrinsically relate to, that we all still flock to the theatre to see his plays today. Like, I think that's so incredible. I think that's so incredible. And I hope that that never goes away. I think it is the case that at any point in the world, there is always a Shakespeare play being performed. And I'm going to be in London later this year, and hopefully I get to go to the Globe, because the last time I went to the Globe, I saw Hamlet, and turns out these standing room tickets, you're not allowed to sit down even if you're about to faint. I had to leave the theatre very briefly to recover, and I missed the to be or not to be speech. You know, the most famous part of the whole play. I missed it because I couldn't stand up straight for that long in the heat. Anyway, would 100% recommend. The best. And I also have a quote from Shakespeare, the Man Who Pays the Rent, the Judi Dench one. I read somewhere that trying to work out Shakespeare's personality was like looking at a very dark, heavily varnished picture in the portrait gallery. At first you see nothing, then you recognize a few features, and then you realize that they are your own. I think the above is also true of Shakespeare's characters. They reflect our own selves back to us. As Judi once said to me, there are as many interpretations of Shakespeare as there are people who have ever been, are, and will be. So that's written by Brendan O'Hay, who's the guy who was interviewing her. So he also wrote the book. Anyway, moving on. Now this book is called How We Love by Clementine Ford. And as you can see, it's a bit bleached by the sun. I've had it for so long. Now, I loved this book. It was such a beautiful exploration of love and how it appears in all its forms across your life, especially from the perspective of like growing up as a woman in Australia and just everything that that encompasses. It is a memoir and it's absolutely beautiful. With clear eyes and an open heart, she writes about losing her adored mother far too young, about the pain and confusion of first love, both platonic and romantic, and the joy and heartache of adult love. So it's just all about how the way that we love and how we show love and receive love just informs who we are and just makes up part of who we are as people. I could not put this down. I think I read this in about a day. It was so lovely. This book, I think I've written down the most quotes of any book I've ever read before in my life, just because there were so many that, just got me. It was so long ago and it was yesterday, and we are 40 years old now, but we will be 15 forever. Like so many things, it turns out the story of loving a boy is really the story of loving a girl, me. No matter where you find yourself, time marches forward regardless. Oh my god. And lastly, the world remains in motion even when the most extraordinary things are happening within it. It's just so gorgeous. If you're looking for a memoir that's going to make you feel really happy and want to tell everyone in your life that you love them, definitely read this. Next up, Emotional Female by Yumiko Kadota. Now, this book was like, it was challenging and an oftentimes just stressing read, but really powerful, I found. It's about how, you know, having empathy can sometimes lead to just insane levels of burnout. And she's a doctor, so she works in the medical field. So there's a whole lot of stuff about like that industry in particular and that specific type of burnout that it leads to. And of course there's the extra element of like being a female in a male dominated field and how that can lead to pushing yourself a little bit further because you feel like you have to prove something. And then of course that just leads to extreme burnout and how far we push ourselves to achieve things and how much in our personal life we let slide to do it. And is it worth it? I think she quits. Yeah, she was called all sorts of things from emotional to too confident, and she was expected to work a relentless on-call roster, sometimes 70 hours a week or more to prove herself. Eventually it was too much and Yumiko quit. I can't even imagine. If you work in a medical field, especially as a woman, or just in a woman in a male-dominated field, and you know, you're stuck feeling like you do need to prove yourself, as we so often do, I would definitely recommend giving this a read. It was fascinating, especially for someone who doesn't work in a medical field. Yeah, it was fascinating. Okay, next is also a bit of a heavy one. This is called Know My Name by Chanel Miller. I think every single person in the entire world should read this book. So this is about the woman who was sexually assaulted by Brock Turner in 2015 at Stanford. And funnily enough, it didn't click with me at first when I bought this, who she was, but I remember reading that story in 2015. I remember hearing about it, that boy from Stanford, and all of the headlines and everything was just about how her accusation was ruining his chances at a fucking swimming scholarship or something. I don't care. And when she first reported it, she was anonymous. So part of the immense significance of this memoir is like, you know, and why it's called Know My Name is because she's come forward. She's not anonymous anymore. She's telling her story and it's her. And it's so powerful and moving and insane to read. It dives really deeply into just how the system fails sexual assault victims, particularly women. I would say almost exclusively women, and just how challenging that whole process of going to trial can be. the way she was picked apart by the jury, her character, and the way her story was like, people were trying to poke holes in her story, and especially the way that they blamed her having alcohol. They blamed what happened on her having alcohol. It's like when you are a victim up on the stand in that moment, you're having to prove that you were sexually assaulted, as opposed to the perpetrator up there trying to prove that they didn't. And this woman has resilience beyond like anything. As you can tell, I'm speechless. Again, I think every single person in the entire world should read this book. It is so powerful and unfortunately not uncommon. We see it time and time again. I feel like I don't need to say any more, but obviously massive trigger warning, and it's really confronting to read, but I would strongly recommend. All right, let's go. Now for something that's sad. Now for something that is beautiful but a little bit sad. Madly, Deeply, the Alan Rickman Diaries. This was published after he passed, and it's like his diary entries. I loved reading about his career, and you get such a strong sense of his character from these pages. It's such a great loss. My favorite is this foreword by Emma Thompson. Where's the part about the lamp? Oh yeah. Oh God, am I gonna cry? Probably. Oh my God, I'm literally gonna cry. The last thing we did together was change a plug on a standard lamp in his hospital room. The task went the same way as everything we've ever done together. I had to go. He told me to try something else. I tried and it didn't work, so he had to go. I got impatient and took it from him and tried again, and it still wasn't right. We both got slightly irritable. Then he patiently took it all apart again and got the right lead into the right hole. I screwed it in. We complained about how fiddly it was. Then we had a cup of tea. It took us at least half an hour. He said afterwards, well, it's a good thing I decided not to be an electrician. Oh, it just makes me so emotional because that was written by Emma Thompson. And something that's just that I find so nice about that passage is that is exactly how I always imagined their relationship to be. Like, it's just so lovely to read something like that and to know that these people that you kind of watch from a distance and, you know, have to project onto and make your own assumptions about who they are personally, because you'll never have any idea. It's just nice to know that they are what you thought they were. They truly are that person that you always felt that they were. I don't know. It's just really nice to read this. I mean, the back of this is 4th of February 2008, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, day 1. Thank God I could do the coat up without visible strain at the seams. Like, he's just such a funny guy. And obviously reading all the parts about how they made Harry Potter was just delightful. So if you're an actor, if you love Alan Rickman, if you loved Harry Potter and you want to read about how they made it, just a little bit more of an insight into it, I would definitely recommend. It's very sweet. And I think I had a quote from this one as well. This one was something that Liam Neeson said. So this was after they left the funeral for Natasha Richardson, who was Liam Neeson's wife. Also devastating. Liam Neeson also said after the service, but you know, however much I sighed at, we're going to dinner, I was always the last to leave. So I have learned. Okay. 3 Women by Lisa Taddeo. I think that's how you say her name, Taddeo. I'm gonna have to refer constantly to my notes on this one so that I don't ramble. This book follows, you guessed it, 3 women. 3 different women across America and their experiences of sexuality and power and joy and despair. They are real women that she interviewed. It was incredibly moving and thought-provoking and a great read. Again, this was another one where when I got it off the shelf to talk about it, I was like, might reread that one. And it's a great exploration of female sexuality and the female gaze, I thought. One of these women is called Maggie, and it's a story of how she pressed charges against her former teacher, Aaron Knodel, after he was named North Dakota Teacher of the Year because they had a relationship while she was in high school, so while she was underage. In a similar way to Chanel Miller, like, her character was completely picked apart and attacked by people in the town in particular because he was this, you know, popular guy. He had a wife and kids. He was North Dakota Teacher of the Year. Like, everyone really liked him, and they thought that she was just like out to ruin his life just for fun, you know, like maybe because he rejected her or something. So she was completely shunned by her town and like nobody believes her. Great. really, really fascinating read. I actually got a quote from a review in The Guardian written by Emily Witt in 2019, which ends with this sentence. So, 3 women simply confirms once again the hypocrisies of the heterosexual marriage, the psychological scars that sexual coercion and violence can leave on a person, and the persistence of gender inequality. I mean, and there is actually also a series on Stan that's based on this. It's called 3 Women, right? But they've added a fictional character to represent Lisa. Her name's Gia. She's played by Shailene Woodley. So it kind of feels a little bit like a fictional interpretation of this non-fiction book. It's very interesting. I don't know if it got good reviews. I'm not sure, but I really enjoyed it, especially because I'd read the book before. So yeah, it's on Stan. Like, go watch it. But also read this, because I will probably be rereading it this year so we could read it together. And lastly, my final book to discuss. This is called Fake by Stephanie Wood. This book, I'll probably reread this too. I'm probably going to reread every single one of these books, to be honest. This book had me hooked from start to finish. This was insane. It read like a fictional story, the way she slowly uncovered the truth about this man. This man, oh my God, just such a compulsive liar and narcissist. If Joe had asked me for money, I would have seen him immediately. But that wasn't what he wanted to take from me or from Kirsty, another woman. He needed something else from us. He needed us to play supporting roles to his magnificent lead character in the boundless, exuberant pantomime of his life. And he needed us to fill the role of audience members too. He needed us to clap. And just how he managed to manipulate Stephanie, but also just all these other women he was seeing, just completely manipulate them into needing him and needing a relationship with him. He would call them crazy. He would make them feel crazy if they ever questioned any sort of inconsistency in what he was saying or what he was doing. He just made them feel crazy and then feel bad for questioning him. A classic. It was grim, but very gripping. Would recommend. So yeah, those are my non-fiction faves as it stands at the beginning of 2026. Maybe the list will be different. We'll have added more by the end of the year. I mean, literally every single one of those books when I was writing my notes, I was like, oh, kind of want to reread that one. So I'd recommend all of them. But thank you for watching this second book video. I absolutely loved this again, and I brainstormed ideas with my best friend, so I have lots of ideas for different book videos I can make, but I hope you enjoyed, and more book recommendations coming your way. Oh dear. Okay, bye.